The Legend of the Dancing Cowboy. 1. You know Cowboy Bill comes alive at night. Finn's piercing words startle Mike, Anthony, and me. Yes, Finn, I sigh. We've all heard the ghost stories at school, too. But he really does move. Late one Halloween night, like past 1, I came home, breaking Mom and Dad's curfew once again, I taunt, and saw Cowboy Bill dancing at the end of the street. Finn continues, ignoring my jab. He had crossed the highway onto Macon Street. I swear, it felt like that thing was calling to me. Finn's grave tone has the three of us staring down the street again. The animatronic figure continues its stiff, repetitive movement. One hand rests on a hip, while the other holds a lasso, Old Man Larry contorted from Christmas lights. That's not true, I say, in an attempt to disrupt the awkwardness. I turn toward Mike and Anthony. I'm sure Old Man Larry just forgot to turn off Cowboy Bill that night. Why am I defending Finn's nonsense? Old Man Larry never forgets to turn off Cowboy Bill, Finn says arrogantly. Yeah, Jonas, Mike says. I've overheard Dad telling Mom that Old Man Larry is cheap, and it saves him a lot on his electric bill. The trivial information that comes out of Mike's mouth never ceases to amaze me, and it's odd that his father shares other people's personal business like that. Well, Mike says, except for Halloween night, of course. Mike looks for any reason to talk about Halloween. It's like he's obsessed with it. Finn's always saying stupid stuff like that to try to scare me, I say. Be thankful you're an only child, Mike. Finn laughs. So that's why Mickey's a troll? Anthony huffs. That's all bull-dookie, man. We've been hearing this cowboy robot comes to life mess since first grade. I agree. Nobody, other than dumb little kids, has actually said that they've ever seen that thing step from that spot. Not true, Finn says. Rebecca Little. Anthony excels smoothly through his teeth. She's so fine. Told us at lunch a few weeks ago that she and her parents were coming home from the new Italian restaurant in downtown Maryville when she caught Cowboy Bill watching them as they passed Old Man Larry's junkyard. That's what it does, Finn, I retort. The thing's an animatronic. They're programmed to move, Goober, to attract customers. Finn shakes his head. She said that the head did a complete 360. I think you mean 180, Anthony says. I don't think Cowboy Bill is capable of turning its head, Mike interjects with one another. Finn disregards the comments, and Cowboy Bill watched them go all the way down the highway. She said it kept staring at her with those big black eyes. And the story goes that Cowboy Bill steps off his porch every Halloween, Jonas, Mike says directly. Mike's always rambling crazy stuff like that, but this time he gives me pause. Once more we look down Macon Street at Cowboy Bill. Even Finn squints, then chuckles. Yeah, I've heard Cowboy Bill stalks trick-or-treaters who stay out too late. He mesmerizes them with his robot boogie. Only the stupid kids fall for Cowboy Bill's Jedi mind tricks. So watch out when you guys are out being losers tomorrow night, Mikey. Hey, Mike shouts. Mike's odd, and it makes him an easy target. But I always defend my friend. Leave him alone, weirdo. Finn snickers. Oh, I'm the weirdo? I overheard you buttheads yapping about tomorrow's your official last year for trick-or-treating. But trust me, you three will still be the biggest dorks at Mayville Middle School, whether you go trick-or-treating or not. Finn laughs as he walks into the house. Finn snickers. Oh, I'm the weirdo? I overheard you buttheads yapping how tomorrow's your official last year for trick-or-treating. But trust me, you three will still be the biggest... I already read that part. We stand at the edge of the front yard and watch Cowboy Bill flashing across the highway for a few moments longer until the familiar green Dodge picks up, exits the junkyard gates. The truck stops, and Old Man Larry eases from the driver's side. He limps over to Cowboy Bill and leans on the animatronic's left side while reaching behind it. A few seconds later, the bulbs from the robot flicker off. The automaton flows to a stop with Cowboy Bill slumping forward. The automation slows to a stop with Cowboy Bill slumping forward. The old man struggles back into his truck, officially ending another workday. We watch the truck turn onto the highway while listening to the radio on Anthony's boombox, the DJ reflecting on the Mets winning the World Series and the recent death of the entertainer, Joan Dornicker. "Let's go scoop it out," Mike says after Old Man Larry is no longer in sight. "We should go down there right now." Right on cue, the radio starts blaring Ringo Starr's The No-No song, while Anthony and I both stare at Mike like he just grew another head. I'm shaking mine, and Anthony is too. "Guys, the three of us have been talking about doing this every Halloween since the 2nd grade," Mike rebuts. "It started with us obsessing over the scary tales of Cowboy Bill's resurrections, and we used to dare each other to go up there alone during summer nights. By 5th grade, we stopped daring each other and started developing scenarios that debunk the myth. Now that we are in 8th grade at Mayville Middle, the energy we used to spend on the town's ghost story has shifted toward more constructive extracurricular activities. This past summer, the coaches at Mayville Middle recruited Anthony to play safety for the football team. Some of the star high school varsity team players helped the coaches with summer training, which meant Anthony's older brother dodging him since he's the main defensive guard for Mayville High's Bulldogs. Anthony's scrawny body has started toning up from the grueling drills, and other athletes at our school are now calling him the Machine. I was nominated to be a Band-Aid for the high school marching band, which meant summer band camp. We were on the high school's football field charting and constantly practicing for the season's halftime shows under the blistering sun. By late July, I was getting compliments on my massive weight loss. Mike spent his summer at theater camp in the North Carolina mountains. Anthony and I didn't hear much from him. Neither of us had much time on our hands anyways. When he returned, Mike had adopted a rather eccentric style: overgrown bangs, gothic outfits, and eyeliner. He seems more articulate, and he's become flamboyant. When the trio comes together for another year of school, we could barely recognize one another. We try to ignore the talk in the school halls, but both the students and the teachers are saying it. The Mayville trio is growing apart. Anthony, Mike, and I have been inseparable since we first started walking to elementary school. We still trek to school together in the mornings, find each other at lunch, and travel home together whenever our after-school activities allow it. Football season intensifies with autumn approaching. Anthony and I practice 4 days a week in preparation for the weekly games. Meanwhile, Mike's wrapped up in Mayville's drama club. He's playing the Joker in Batman, this year's winter play. So distracted, we didn't even hold our annual brainstorming session to debunk the legend of Cowboy Bill this year until the actual week of Halloween. Even then, the discussions are short and usually provoked by Mike. "This has got to be the year," Mike continues. "It's all built up to this moment." "You're sounding like a fool, man," Anthony says in a low, firm voice. "An obsessed fool." Mike gets defensive. "Why is that? Are you scared, Mr. Football Star?" "No." Anthony's arms stiffen, and he tilts his head toward Mike. "But I'm not a fool like you. My parents would whoop my ass if they caught me sneaking out the house that late. They might even take me off the football team. They ride Dante just for coming home late." Mike's hands fly into the air. "Anthony, we were just talking about doing this yesterday afternoon walking home." "You were, Mike," Anthony responds. "You were talking about it. You're always talking about Cowboy Bill." "We all have always talked about visiting Cowboy Bill at nightfall since that Halloween," says Mike, referencing the Halloween night when we were in the 4th grade. "Yeah," Anthony says, clearly annoyed. "The night only you saw whatever it was you saw." "Jonas said he saw it that night too," Mike snaps. "Didn't you, Jonas?" They both look at me, and I stay silent. I keep my focus down the road. Cowboy Bill has been wearing the same weathered leather vest and oversized brimmed hat for as long as I can remember. The red in Cowboy Bill's plaid shirt has faded over the years. Finn always jokes that the robot's matted mustache underneath his pointy metallic nose is fur from the stray dogs old man Larry has caught sneaking into his junkyard. Anthony returns to his bickering with Mike. That was also before you got your glasses, Mike, and since the glasses, I haven't heard any other stupid sightings. You're just scared, Anthony, Mike repeats. Anthony sucks on his teeth. I ain't scared of a hunk of old metal. Mike's voice takes a terse tone. This was an oath we made, and the three of us have always stayed true to our words regardless. Isn't that right, Jonas? I remain stoic, and they return to fussing with one another. Their bickering fades from my hearing as we get closer to the junkyard, and Cowboy Bill comes into focus. I feel like I'm being drawn toward the animatronic. The fabric and accessories on Cowboy Bill seem more glossy in the sun's rays. Maybe it's because I'm not blinking, but the robot appears to tremor. The vibration intensifies, and it's now blurry. I can hear the metal rattling. Then it ceases without any warning, and Cowboy Bill's head turns. He's looking right at me. I squint for a better look. I'm trying to focus, still shocked by what I'm seeing. Cowboy Bill returns to staring at the ground, and his features are again vague from the distance. Let's walk down there tomorrow night, I suggest. The two stop bickering and stare at me. They look stunned. Mike has a point, I continue. We've always talked about it, and we've always done what the Mayville trio has always agreed to do. We've explored the banks along the train tracks, snuck into that abandoned house in the woods beyond the park, and stood on the school roof. This mission is minor compared to those, so we can't leave it undone. Anthony lets out a hiss. Don't you have a game tomorrow night, Jonas? It's an away game tomorrow night. Band-Aids don't go to away games. I'm in, Mike says. We will become legends in the school halls. Anthony laughs and inspires me to do the same. I don't know about all that, Mike. Think about it, Mike exclaims with his jazz hands. If we do this and share our story, not only would we be the ones from Mayville Middle who confronted Cowboy Bill, but everyone would stop hounding us about splitting up. We go way back, Anthony says. We've been hanging out since kindergarten, and we all live on the same street, bro. We'll always be friends. I want to believe it, but deep down, as we look at each other, we know this moment signifies the beginning of the end. I mean, sure, we'll stay in touch, like Anthony says. We live on the same street. But it won't be the same by the time we enter high school. Being brave enough to stand down the legend of Cowboy Bill in the dark would bond us forever. I think we need to do this tomorrow night, I say. The oath needs to be fulfilled. The silence that follows confirms the decision for the Mayville trio. 2. My eyes open and the VCR clock reads 12:02 a.m., October 31st. The giggling woke me. I close my eyes and try to drift back to sleep, but snickering interrupts it. I squint at the ceiling to adjust the darkness when a commotion alarms me enough for my eyes to spring wide open. I prop myself in bed to flip on my nightstand lamp. I nearly knock my lamp onto the floor when I reach for it. The laughter continues. Is this a nightmare? The more I wake up, the more I grow curious about the source of the laughter. This has to be a prank. The laughter is coming from outside my window. I'm anxious about getting out of bed, but the laughter is getting louder and more sinister. The curiosity gets the best of me. I tiptoe to my window and peek through my blinds. It's Mike, standing in the middle of the road, staring down Macon Street and wildly laughing. He's wearing only tighty-whities and a t-shirt. His long hair is standing up and it's disheveled. He isn't wearing his glasses. I rap my knuckles on the window to get his attention, but Mike remains in trance of laughter. I snatch my bathrobe from my desk chair, hustle to the front door, and step onto the porch, bundling up to shield against the cold. A weak glow flickers from the eyes and mouth of the jack-o'-lantern on the steps. A second after I blow out the candle, Mike's laughter reaches a crackling howl. Its roaring echoes in the otherwise silent October night. I scan the neighborhood, perplexed as to why no one else has come out to investigate this unsettling disturbance. I call to Mike in a stern voice, with the hope that someone would hear me. Mike keeps his focus down the street. I'm contemplating getting my dad, or even Finn, when Mike begins these herky-jerky gestures with his arms and legs. I'm dumbfounded, staring at Mike. He's always been odd, but I've never seen anything like this. I step off the porch. Mike, where's your inhaler, man? I try to control my tone, but the cold, mixed-up fear hinders my vocal cords. You need to get inside. He keeps laughing while gazing down the street. I approach Mike and look him in the eyes. You're breathing, dude. You need to chill with that break dancing. A tall, dark figure with limber limbs is convulsing near the stop sign at the end of Macon Street. It dances under the streetlight by the sign, but promptly slides out of the light before I can get a good look at who or what it is. Seconds later, while I'm still processing it all, I recognize it as boogieing down Macon Street. Pause. Seconds later, while I'm still processing it all, I realize it is boogieing down Macon Street. I grab Mike. His skin's frosty to the touch. I tug on my buddy and beg him to snap out of it. At the same time, I can't take my eyes off the dancing silhouette. It glides along the pavement with impressive moves. I swallow hard before taking a deep breath that burns my esophagus and force myself to break the gaze. Mike, man, we really need to get in. I hold the icy breath in my throat when Mike and I lock eyes. His pupils are bloodshot, his grin wide, and his stained teeth are chattering in his clenched jaws. Mike's laugh is muffled, and tears are frozen on his puffy red cheeks. Snot is running down his troubled chin. He keeps dancing. I look back down the street. The figure has picked up the pace, and he's close enough for me to decipher the familiar metal face and ragged clothing. I remove my robe to bundle Mike and maneuver to his other side. Adrenaline floods my bloodstream and allows me to power Mike's stubby body up my driveway. Mike stops straining his eyes after I nudge him onto the stoop with my knees. By the time I get him into the house, his lips are relaxed and his teeth are still chattering. I can't resist turning around one last time before entering the house, and I need a better look at it. The silhouette ducks beneath the shadowy trees at the edge of my neighbor's yard, but the brim hat gives it away. I slam the front door. Mike firmly holds the steaming mug of hot cocoa with both hands. I sit across from him at the kitchen table and take my first sip when I hear my father's footsteps stumbling down the hallway. After mostly I, answer Dad's questions, Mom comes in like a firestorm, demanding to know what's going on. Mom's ranting continues even while she frantically jabs her index finger on the keypad of the landline, calling Mike's house. It's 3 a.m. when Mr. Sutton arrives to pick up Mike. I don't even recall leaving home, Mike says. Mike's teeth finally stop chattering as he shares his best recollection of the story. He still has both hands wrapped firmly around his warm mug, and he's sipping on his third cup. And I don't know how long I stood out there. I can't believe I went outside in my underwear, he says, still wearing my bathrobe. The only thing I remember was lying on my bed, reading my part for Batman, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie, and the next thing I remember is being pushed by Jonas up his driveway. It was as if I had been awakened from a heavy sleep, still groggy, when I realized I was being led into the Bulmer's house. Everyone looks at me as soon as Mike says my name. I share my recollection of the event, but when I get to the part about Mike's psychotically stared at me, I explain it as a look of exhaustion before I guided him into the house. I didn't mention anything about Mike's maniacal laughter or what I saw gyrating up the street. It's nearly 5 o'clock in the morning before Mr. Sutton walks Mike home. I didn't accompany Mom and Dad when they led him to the front door, for fear of what might be waiting in the yard. Mom said I could stay home, but since it's Halloween, I don't want to miss the festivities at school. But more importantly, I need to talk with Anthony. I missed walking with him to school this morning because we were running late in the house. I finally find Anthony at lunchtime. The faculty has decorated the cafeteria walls and ceiling with paper cutouts and orange and black streamers. Every table has Halloween props on it. A green-tinted witch with a wide grin stands on our designated table. I walk around the table to face Anthony, but before I can say anything, the witch's crackling voice startles me. Her hips sway, and her hands jiggle her broom. It's the first time I've ever seen an animatronic made specifically for Halloween, so naturally I react unaware. Anthony gets a laugh out of it. Yeah, she got me too. The animatronic signs off with a happy Halloween. I share last night's events with Anthony, leaving in the creepy details I held back from my parents and Mike's dad. I wait for Anthony to laugh at me, expecting him to brush it off as Mike being Mike. However, what came from his lips floored me. Jonas, Mike's weirdness is becoming too much. He's just cramping our style. I mean, the football players and even a few hot girls have invited me to some parties for tonight. They let me know I can bring you. I think some band geeks go to these things, so you must be on their radar, man, but Mike? Anthony finishes a bite of his pizza. Maybe we could hang out tonight, just you and me. I know we usually chill together for Halloween, but maybe we could go to these parties instead of trick-or-treating tonight. Mike might need to rest tonight anyhow, after what you told me. I'm lost for words over what I just heard. Sure, Mike is on a different level than us, but that's always been Mike. It never cramped our style before. Why would it now? My face must have spoken for me, but Anthony's expression reads as if I'm ready to cuss him out. Or, he continues, still chewing, maybe we could go by the house to check on him after class. Then we can get ourselves ready for an awesome grown folk Halloween night. School lets out and we head straight for Mike's house, knocking on the front door a few times before letting ourselves in. It's dark and eerily silent. We move from room to room, calling out for Mike. We enter the open kitchen, feeling some relief due to the direct light shining through the double-hung windows. We only enjoy the warmth and comfort for a moment before something swooshes between us. You two came, Mike proclaims, circling the kitchen island. That must mean you want to go trick-or-treating. Anthony and I exchange concerned glances over Mike's excitement before Anthony asks timidly, Trick-or-treating? You still up for it, man? Mike nods, snapping his head from side to side. His eyes are as huge as they were last night, but not as bloodshot. He taps his fingertips together, filled with anticipation. Let's go trick-or-treating, Mike yells. Mike makes eye contact with me. Just wait until you two see my costume. You're gonna freak. Mike was right about freaking out. I take several steps back from him as Anthony opens his front door. Man, what's this? I try to contain my discomfort. You like it? Mike asks with glee as he bops up Anthony's front steps. I made it myself. Obviously, is what I thought, but kept to myself. Leather chaps cover an old pair of Mike's jeans. He sports a brown vest over a red checkered shirt. The adhesive isn't holding the thick black mustache, so it's crooked above Mike's sweaty upper lip. The creepy costume is capped with a brimmed cowboy hat, which is too big for Mike's head. I glance at Anthony. He isn't budging from the doorway, as if too worried to let Mike into his house. I scrambled for something to say to end the awkward silence. Anthony beat me to it, shaking his head. You've lost your mind, Mike. I'm struggling to say something intelligent. I think Town Hall has stations at this year's Halloween party for trick-or-treaters. Practically everyone's going there. I heard people talking about it in school today. We could join our parents and get some candy there tonight. Let's just go do that, guys, Anthony says. Too many people are bugging us about trick-or-treating being for little kids anyhow. Let's just go downtown with the grown folks and chill tonight. Yeah, I say, waving my glove with the fake blades on the fingertips. We could just put on something more comfortable and just go chill. No, Mike shouts. We took an oath and we're sticking to it. If you guys aren't with me, I'll go by myself. He grips his candy bag with both hands as if for dear life and stares at the ground, feet marching in place in the cement step. Tears form in his eyes. Anthony finally releases the doorknob and raises his hands up. It's cool. It's cool, Mikey. Anthony puts a hand on Mike's shoulder. Let's go trick-or-treating. It's funny to see a guy trying to look tough in a karate gi while piling a wannabe cowboy. I want to taunt them, but realizing this isn't the time. I need to remember to tease them later, if there is a letter for the three of us after this. Hey, I use my thumb to point behind me. How about we go check out that new neighborhood, Fennern Terrace? Mike's gloomy demeanor instantly shifts to exhilaration. He darts between us and disappears into the kitchen. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. Let's just make this quick. I whisper for only Anthony to hear. This shouldn't take too long. We'll hit a few of the houses and then walk Mike home to hang with him there until his dad gets home from downtown. Nah, Anthony says, waving the idea off with a hand gesture. After trick-or-treating, I'm going to Molly's party. You can come if you want. 4. We traverse through the bare trees and decaying shrubs behind Macon Street. The sun has vanished, and we rely on the faint twilight to guide us through the depths of the decomposing brush. The wind rustles the dead leaves and pierces my thin red and green striped sweater. We have a view of the highway, and we can see headlights of vehicles traveling downtown. The view of U Lasso U Pool is decent, and so is Cowboy Bill, with the decorative decor of haystacks and uncarved, oversized pumpkins Old Mary Larry piles around the animatronic every Halloween. To our right, Madame Bedingfield's colonial house peeps through the tree limbs. Madame Bedingfield lives alone and has no family to visit her, so she's always peppy when heading out the best trick-or-treat candy around. It's our tradition to start at her house, before our usual route along Macon Street. But since we are checking out the new development, we decide to hit Madame Bedingfield's upon returning to our neighborhood. We're walking in the dark by the time we reach the edge of Fennern Terrace. The sprawling 3-story Victorian-style houses mesmerize us. The Homeowners Association wanted to do Fennern Terrace's first Halloween right, with tasteful decorations thoughtfully placed on well-maintained lawns. The community is engaged. Many new faces are becoming acquainted with the new standing residents of Mayville. One of the houses even has a youthful adult dressed as a scarecrow, hopping from a stand and chasing trick-or-treaters after they get their candy. My chest swells with warm delight. Mike and Anthony have wide grins on their faces as well. Mike's wearing his signature goofy smile, indicating he's back to normal. We exchange head nods of approval and proceed into the neighborhood. As veterans of the trick-or-treating game, we know big homes usually mean great candy. We map out their path. A couple parents give us sideways glances, implying we have aged out of trick-or-treating. We probably look like some hoodlums conspiring mischievousness, but we don't care. We finally choose a cul-de-sac and bound up the driveway of our first house on the left. Our excitement adds a spring to our step, but our internal alarms abruptly stops us in our tracks. Some of our peers are escorting younger trick-or-treaters, stuck with sibling duty for the night. Without younger siblings to provide cover, are we standing out? But with everything that has happened over the past 24 hours or so, I could care less what anyone else thought right now. And I can tell Anthony and Mike are in the Halloween zone with me. The Mayville trio is functioning as a team for the first time since spring. I initiate the running. Mike lets out a whoop and joins me in jogging. Anthony, easily the best athlete among us, blows past us, and he's the first one to the door. By the time we complete the Fennern Terrace, it's chilly out. Many families have wrapped up their trick-or-treating for the night. We depart the development and journey back through the dormant shrubs through Macon Street. "Hold up," Mike says, trailing Anthony and I. We turn to find he has stopped walking. We can't forget old Madam Bedingfield's. The thought of protesting floods my thoughts, but I stay silent. Anthony and I exchange looks, and I know we're thinking the same exact thing. It didn't take long for us to spot Madam Bedingfield's still lit-up home. Headlights form the steady stream of traffic illuminates her yard, helping her display her outdated plastic pumpkins with happy faces and ridiculous witches flashing a snaggletooth. The rusty gate creaks as Mike pushes it open. I follow behind him, and Anthony lags along. Tiny raindrops pelt my costume and bare skin. It's a light rain, and it shouldn't run the makeup of the trick-or-treaters' faces. A car loaded with teenagers speeds down the roadway with laughter bellowing from the open windows, and it passes by the gate for the U lasso U-pull. It races out of sight as quickly as it came into view. My eyes fixate on the animatronics sitting behind the haystack and pumpkins in front of the junkyard's gate. Cowboy Bill twirls his lasso in a hazy glow through the mist. With each cycle, the lights seem brighter. The quicker the rope's light spins, the more Cowboy Bill's eyes shimmer with platinum radiance. That's when it occurs to me that in all these years living in Mayville, Cowboy Bill's lasso has never moved before. The robot only lifts the rope in the air, but never twirls it. But now, the rope is circling just above his massive hat. While keeping the balance of the twirling rope above his head, Cowboy Bill lifts his knee, something else he has never done before. The mist thickens. Clouds have blanketed the stars in the sky, and my view is hindered by the headlights fighting through the raindrops. But I'm sure about what I just saw. My field of vision is shrinking, but it looks like Cowboy Bill's other arm is bending, and he's starting a clogging routine in what has to be the spookiest moment of my life. He turns and faces me. Bill lifts his left hand and waves to me, smiling through his matted mustache. He has massive pearly teeth. He starts dancing, and oddly it inspires me to do the same. "Jonas, dude," I hear Mike's voice call from Madam Bedingfield's front steps while Anthony gets his goodies from the madam. "You want some more candy or what? She's giving out king-size candy bars this year." Preoccupied, I look back down the road. Cowboy Bill has returned to his repetitive moves, and the lasso is motionless again as he sways. Anthony and Mike are checking their stash when I pass them, bound for Madam's porch steps. Madam Bedingfield's porch light casts a shadow on her pale, wrinkled complexion. Draped over her thin frame is a lacy black dress, and her white hair sits in a tight bun above her frail head. "Trick or treat!" Her bony fingers tremble as she drops a Kit Kat King bar in my bulging bag. I thank her graciously and wheel around to join Mike and Anthony down the walkway, and just as I'm about to step off the porch, a skeletal hand clasps my wrist. "You saw him, didn't you, child?" Madam Bedingfield whispers. The gaze from her dark coal eyes peers into mine. I saw him staring that way. She glances toward the junkyard, then locks eyes with me again. I want to lie, but the way she's looking into my eyes, I know better. I've watched him every Halloween night for nearly 50 years. The stench from her breath invades my nostrils, making my stomach curl. Don't let Bill cast his spell on you, child. If he catches you, he'll bite your face off. It happens to a boy in the 80s. But what the law covered it up. They said wolves got that little boy, but us old-timers know what really happened. "Yes, ma'am." I ease my hand from her grip, nervously thank her again for the candy, and jump off our porch to join Anthony and Mike. I'm still trying to decide if the madam is just old and senile or speaking the truth. 5. Our bags are practically filled to the brim with an assortment of every kind of candy under the sun. But there's enough room to hit the few familiar houses we've been visiting together since our first trick-or-treating outing on Macon Street. Neighbors tell us they've been waiting on us, and while dropping the candy into our bags, urge us to say hey to our parents for them. We reach the end of the road, and it's getting late for Mayville, one by one, front porch lights and being turned off. It seems like some of them were waiting up for us before calling it a night. By the time we get back to the road after our final stop at Mr. McNeil's house, he always passes out fun-sized Snickers. The street is completely dark, except for the neglected jack-o'-lanterns left lit on a few porches. The mist has turned into a steady downpour. We are only a few dozen steps from the intersection, so there's no way to resist giving it a glance. Across the highway from Macon Street, Cowboy Bill remains lit and in motion. The change of weather hasn't disturbed the hay and pumpkins. The rain pours while we stand watching the animatronic. He seems more lively than usual tonight, huh? Anthony says. The situation unravels rather quickly. Cowboy Bill starts to twirl his lasso and raises up into a hip-swirling dance, keeping time with his lasso of lights. It's mesmerizing all three of us. I'm waiting for someone to scream or dart into Mr. McNeil's house with knocking, but we can't take our eyes off him. Anthony breaks the silence with nervous laughter. He doesn't seem so bad. Hey, I heard about your dance party last night, Mikey. Do you think you can keep up with those moves? Holy batshit, Mike. I check to see what has startled Anthony and discover Mike performing his newfound dance moves, similar to what he had did the night before. Mike is wearing that same creepy smile. Kinda reminds me of Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Anthony reaches out to pat Mike on the shoulder, but jumps back when Mike jerks his head around to face Anthony with bloodshot eyes. Mike looks like he's possessed, and I'm pretty sure he is. I've never felt this scared, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm thankful Anthony is here. Mike's constantly contorting his arms and legs with moves I've never seen before, his eyes locked on the dancing cowboy. Confused, I looked up and down Macon Street for an adult to rescue us. Nobody's outside, just like last night. We are eerily on our own. Anthony calls out to the Lord. The rain limits my vision, but the haystack just got knocked over, and one of the pumpkins rolls onto the street, while the other slammed into the junkyard gate. Cowboy Bill is no longer on his perch, and he's ducked out of sight. I scan the area and quickly discovered Cowboy Bill next to the stop sign, twirling the lights above his brimmed lid. A grin spreads from cheek to cheek across Bill's face, and his moonlit eyes are locked on Mike. Mike keeps his eyes contact as well, like he's under a spell. I look at creepy Bill, then back at my friend. They're doing the exact same dance moves. Oh shit, Anthony shouts. Jonas, we need to get Mike out of here now. We both grab one of Mike's arms and do our damnedest to keep a firm grip on our wiggling buddy as we carry him up the street. Anthony's athletic training and my marching practices with a salsaphone are paying off, because we don't struggle in the least to haul our plus-sized friend up the Macon Street. Anthony's athletic training and my marching practices with a sousaphone are paying off, because we don't struggle in the least to haul our plus-sized friend up Macon Street. The rain has turned into a heavy thunderstorm with lightning bolts by the time we reach my yard. We're almost to the front door when Mike kicks one of Mom's jack-o'-lanterns off the stoop. Anthony is trying to snap Mike out of his trance while I struggle with my house keys. I'm shaking from sheer terror and struggle to slide my house key into the lock. Anthony yells for me to focus, but the storm is making it hard for me to see what I'm doing. I look back, and my fears are realized. Bill has followed us home, and he's closing in quickly. He looks angry, and he's huge, at least 10 feet tall and massively thick. With all of this going on, why do I feel the urge to dance? Has he cast a spell on me too? Self-preservation kicks in. If he eats Mike's face, maybe he will leave me alone. He wants Mike, I say, so let him have him. What? Anthony shrieks, "No way!" My eyes are burning from the sweat and raindrops. My thoughts are jumbled, and I'm struggling to form words. He just wants Mike, Anthony. The monster's chest is puffed out and his biceps are bulging. I'm paralyzed with fear. I literally feel like I can't move. We just can't leave him out here for that monster, Jonas. The motherfucking beast coming this way isn't something we... Give me those keys. I pull my eyes from Bill's hold on me and focus on the doorknob. A sudden calm comes over me, and I smoothly insert the key into the door handle, opening it just as Anthony screams, "Oh shit, he's practically on top of us!" I realize Mike as soon as we enter the living room. Bolting the door behind us, the lamps are off, but the kitchen is shedding dim light in the living room. When Anthony lets our troubled friend go, Mike's frantic dancing resumes, and he seems more agitated than before. I release Mike as soon as we enter my living room, bolting the door behind us. The lamps are off, but the kitchen is shedding dim light in the living room. When Anthony lets our troubled friend go, Mike's frantic dancing resumes, and he seems more agitated than before. Then Mike starts wheezing. "Oh, hell," I say through exhaustion, Mike's asthma. I frisk my buddy to find his inhaler while Anthony looks for Bill through the window. I locate, with relief, the pump in the back pocket while I am assessing Mike's condition. "This thing looks freaky as hell," Anthony says. "What does it... Holy crap!" Mike stops dancing. "What?" I asked, trying to administer the inhaler to Mike. "Bill has stopped dancing," Anthony says. "He took a giant leap and was back behind the trees, Jonas. Just one long jump, at least 30 feet. How's that possible?" I give Mike a few more doses of the inhaler before putting it back in his pocket, then joining Anthony for a scout from the window. There's Bill, staring at us, motionless, with the rain pouring down and the occasional lightning bolt illuminating the sky. Through the steady rainfall, I can see the once metal fingers are now flesh-toned, and his lasso is burlap. Is he some sort of demonic shapeshifter? Mike, to no surprise, is acting super creepy. He's now a statue with a scowl on his face, standing exactly the way Bill is. "What do we do now?" Anthony asks. "I can't go home with Bill the freak out there in the pouring rain, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to fall asleep under the same roof with Mikey in a godless trance. What are we going to do?" I shrug in defeat, and then a movement in the yard catches my attention. Finn steps onto the grass, leading Rebecca Little by the hand. "Oh, no, no, no," I implore aloud, but to nowhere in particular. I pound on the glass, and Anthony does the same, both of us shouting. My throat starts to burn from the yelling. They continue across the lawn, deep in conversation, oblivious to our ruckus, and to what lurks at the other end of the yard. Bill hasn't moved from his spot, but he's now looking in Finn's direction. Bill's facial details are now visible in the moonlight, and he's watching Finn and Rebecca like a hawk about to pounce on his prey. His face is morphed into a ruddy flesh tone, but he's mostly pale like a corpse, and he doesn't blink. I'm trembling, and I can't stop picturing what the madam said about Bill biting the face off a kid. Finn is smitten and can't hear us pounding the window due to the violent lightning storm and pouring rain. "Anthony, what can we do? He's going to attack them any second." I step backward toward the door, terrified to open it and reluctant to take my eyes off what's happening out here. I take 2 steps back when I bump into something plump. Mike's blocking my path. His eyes are blood red and he's glaring into mine. Where's a good exorcist when you need one? I struggle to get around him with a plan to fling open the door and yell at Finn and Rebecca to sprint inside. Mike doesn't budge, but I'm determined. I grasp the front doorknob, but it doesn't turn. I'm shaking it in my panic before getting it unlocked and yanking it open. I screech Finn's name. They look at me as if I've lost my mind, and I've asked myself the same thing. "What in the flippin' hell is wrong with you, freak brand boy?" Finn snarls, acting especially tough and mean to impress his female friend. I kick over one of Mom's favorite carved-out pumpkins as I leapt over the front porch steps, and it's in 100 pieces on the walkway. I'm in front of Finn and Rebecca in a matter of seconds, frantically scanning the perimeter, but Bill's nowhere in sight. The rain has died. My watch beeps. It's midnight. Where did he go? The panic constricts my throat, and it's hard to breathe, much less talk. Where did he go, Jonas? Finn asked with a baffled look. He could now see the sheer terror in my eyes. Cowboy Bill. There was a pregnant pause before Finn and Becca burst into laughter. I tried to tell you what a weirdo my brother is, Finn says to Rebecca as they continue to my house. Anthony remains in the window, mouth hanging and his face washed out. Whoa, did you three go down a drinking bridge or smoke some weed? Finn chuckles as he plops down and leans into the recliner. Maybe I'll have to hang out with you guys next Halloween, unless something better comes along. I don't know what my brother's talking about at first, but then I see Mike laid out on the couch, snoring. Finn and Rebecca head off to the kitchen, giving Anthony and I a chance to talk about it. No way, Anthony says, mystified at Mike's sudden silence. When the hell did this big ass pass out? Anthony and I look at each other and share the same thought. We run outside into the middle of Macon Street and look down the end of the road. There he is, the lit-up electronic cowboy swaying in his repetitive motion across the roadway in front of Old Man Larry's You Lasso, You Pull junkyard. Headlights turn onto Macon Street, blocking our view of Cowboy Bill. I recognize them as the lights of my parents' Dodge Omni. The hardened look on my mother's face doesn't even faze me as they drive around Anthony. I remain fixated on the mechanical man we call Cowboy Bill. The haystack that Old Man Larry passes in front of the Cowboy Bill on every Halloween is shredded at his feet, and the oversized pumpkins are demolished, one squashed in the street, and the other torn in by the gate. The three of us will be teased for being seen trick-or-treating as 8th graders. Anthony and I will just laugh it off and take it and maintain our silence about what went down tonight. Thankfully, Mike doesn't remember any of it, and it's a good thing because he would share it with any and everyone at Mayville Middle. Anthony and I will keep the legend of the Dancing Cowboy between us, and it will be the secret that keeps us connected forever.